Commerce media was really driven by many of the disruptions we've seen in the world of measurement, targeting, and attribution, where in principle it really allows the delivery of an ad and then the measurement of the response, a purchase-based response in the same platform in the context of Apple ATT and the impending deprecation of third-party cookies. This is a crucial asset that commerce media brings to the table. What we're currently seeing is this market is both large in terms of spend. In Europe, we see it around 8 billion spend already, but also still in its infancy when it comes to measurement standards and so forth. So to fully take advantage of the post-third-party cookie world, both retailers and advertisers need to do much harder work in defining what are we measuring, what are the right metrics, and how can we orchestrate this spend. Currently, commerce media is in Europe predominantly an on-site activity, i.e. ads bought on the pages and in the apps of retailers and other commerce players such as last mile delivery firms. However, we see this evolve fairly rapidly towards offsite, i.e. taking the first-party data from retailers and activating that elsewhere on the web, be it on search, be it on social, but also be it on programmatic. Now, for that to happen, again, retailers need to up their skills in actually delivering this. And I think further collaborations are required with ad tech players, but also with agencies to really unlock this opportunity, because selling ads on page is very different to orchestrating ad campaigns across the funnel. Overall, we can see that Europe is around 3 to 4 years behind the US. A lot of the innovations we've seen from the Walmart, from the Target side, Kroger, Albertson now with the merger, it's coming from there. And we can measure this fairly crudely, but it's the only way we really have by looking at retail or commerce media spend as share of online gross merchandise value. This is in Europe currently around between 1% and 2% for retailers, where in the US it's already around between 3 and 3.5%. So a crucial task in Europe is to close that gap. And in Europe, we also see huge differences. We saw some pioneering work happening in France, for instance, with Carrefour. We see the UK retailers being ahead of the game, also due to the strong e-commerce penetration in the market. And we also saw German giants waking up. Companies like Otto, for instance, Zalando has been doing this for a while, but also companies like MediaMarkt or Douglas, the Europe Sephora, are really doubling down in this space. And we're seeing new launches of retail media nearly every week. However, I think UK and Germany are ahead in terms of overall penetration, followed by France, where on the back of Carrefour, we see lots of innovation happening. But then things tail off. The Netherlands are a strong market, have always been, in particular when it comes to performance-driven digital ads. So they have some strong retailers, but in particular when we look at Eastern Europe and Southern Europe, there's still a lot of scope for innovation. And we see those markets, again, trailing around maybe 2 years behind what's happening in the UK and Germany. The good news is that a leapfrogging moment can arrive fairly quickly, meaning that this temporal lag can be closed once we have standards in place and once the real value add of retail media becomes clearer. One last thing I should add is that retail media isn't just a media game. It's also an e-com game, but fundamentally how the media operations are embedded within the overall retailer strategy. Selling media is very different from selling bananas. And there's a lot of education required for a culture shift to be brought forward within retailers to fully support their retail media teams, to give them the resources to tie media closer to SKU level transactions and so forth. The promise of retail media is clear. I made last year the bold forecasts that in Europe, retail media could be larger than TV by 2026. Yet, with all forecasts, it's a depiction of possibility and not of reality. So the market needs to work together to get, as we mentioned, those standards, those definitions, measurement in place to really unlock the potential of retail media. At the end of last year at IB Europe, we did a survey where it became fairly clear that there's a lack of buy-side integration, i.e. retailers operate in silos. They sell their still predominantly on-site inventory kind of one by one. It's very hard for agencies and also direct advertisers to compare apples to apples what the performance of retailer 1 versus retailer 2 and 3 is, and how to balance and channel that spend. And we've also, of course, seen this elusive first-party data locked in retailers. And there needs to be a stronger value exchange, a stronger kind of delivery of metrics and clear empirical evidence of the real sales uplift that retail media delivers. In particular, retailers need to make sure that the ads they're selling are not going to people who would purchase things anyways. There's also a huge offsite opportunity, yet this is also still in its infancy, and a lot of work needs to be done to get the right infrastructures ready. Fundamentally, to ensure that retail media isn't or just doesn't remain a bottom of the funnel point of purchase medium, but that the data available there and the strategies that can be formulated with that data can be used elsewhere in the marketing funnel. And this could go as far as using retailer data in the planning process for some awareness-based media. But we are still in early days to unlock this. We've seen a strong focus on sponsored listings and other product-based ads. What has so far been underappreciated is the testing, particularly the creative testing and the creative optimization of that. So for me, one of the most exciting things is how can we change ad copy, for instance, to make retail media ad units more attractive? How can we, in particular, also offsite, use IB banner units and others and kind of customize them in a way that they become more shoppable? And how can integrations with other shoppable media be linked to retail media? So I think in that sense, we're going to see a lot of innovation beyond these standard ad formats that we're currently seeing, which in a sense were born out of necessity to quickly capture the demand. Retailers, on the one hand, need to become more like publishers. But retailers, unlike large publishers like The Guardian and Axel Springer, do not necessarily have the ad ops expertise required to unlock this. So I see in a couple of years' time, much stronger discussions about what vendors should we work with. We can also see new urgency to this as post-pandemic traffic to retailer websites and apps has peaked and audience growth isn't really happening anymore. So on the one hand, there needs to be, I think, a higher ad load, a better monetization of the available inventory, but then also there need to be kind of new strategies on how do I capture additional demand. This could, for instance, be through a retailer, large one, launching their own DSP or having an SSP that taps into existing demand from the DSPs that advertisers already use. So some of these issues will define conversations in retail media. Another thing is more of a philosophical and strategic point, which is we know that in the post-third-party cookie world, we see a rampant walled gardenization of everything. Players shutting down their ecosystems and trying to monetize what's going on inside them. Now, this strategy, mid and long term, might not be viable for all retailers. So we're going to see discussions about openness versus closeness. Do we, as retailers, build very rigid walled gardens, or are there more porous, hedged gardens where we allow for stronger third-party collaboration? This will depend retailer by retailer, but it's going to be crucial for each retailer to find their strategy. Lastly, we've seen a flurry of launches in retail media. The huge question is, how many retail media networks can the European market really sustain? And in typical digital advertising, in particular ad tech fashion, what is likely is that we're going to see more launches, but then consolidation and partnerships. There could be third-party sales houses, there could be retailers pooling their inventory together to sell it together. And the last thing, which hasn't really been unlocked yet, is non-endemic demand. Non-endemic is another key word in retail media, as most retailers, in particular in Europe right now, are serving advertisers who sell products and services on their shops. But what about using retail media as destinations for inventory, but also as partners through data to tap into demand from other advertisers who are not selling goods and services on those platforms? This is going to be another key consideration for the next 3 to 5 years.